Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Gator Truth. Today, I have my friends from the Uptown Update here to talk to us about Tulane and Jon Sumrall. And with me, we have Jack and Reed from Uptown Update. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, Daniel. Thanks for having us on Gator Truth. It's bittersweet to talk about Jon Sumrall, the Florida Gators head coach, but happy to provide some insight.
Definitely. And how are you doing tonight, Reed?
I'm doing great. We got a championship game to play for on Friday. That's what I want to. That's my focus right now. But Jon Sumrall, I think you guys got a good one in him. We're gonna miss him, so I'm hoping for his success in the future.
For sure. And you know what? You did bring it up that AAC championship game Friday night, 8:00 ABC. I know it's going to be the Gators' first time, or a lot of Gators' first time this season, really watching Tulane. I've got to ask, what is something that if the Gators are watching to kind of look to see what a Jon Sumrall team looks like, what should they be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, I mean, he's a linebacker, right? He grew up, so to speak, as a coach on the defensive side of the ball. All of his teams play violent. They play hard. They play physical, right? So if you're watching Tulane, especially against a team like North Texas that likes to spread the ball out and play fast, Tulane's gonna bring the heat. They're gonna try and bring the pain. I think he said in the press conference, he used the word killers. We got a lot of killers on defense, and I think he used that word deliberately. His personality really comes out in his football teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think the defense is obviously the focus, and Jon Sumrall's biggest strength is his leadership. I know that even though he's still not going to be the head coach of Tulane technically in this game, I think that the player is going to rally around him. You'll see that. I'm sure you saw the press conference at Florida. He's a rah-rah guy, so I'm hoping he can get the players up for this one. You have to for a championship, you'd hope.
Definitely. And of course, if he wins the title, my understanding is that he's still going to stay with you guys at least as long as you guys navigate the playoffs. So good luck with that. But let's kind of work our way backwards a bit, I guess. So you're in this title game last year. Well, let's start at the bowl game from last year. You play Florida. I know there are some Florida fans, very few, but some that see that game and think, why would we want Jon Sumrall? Because he lost to Billy Napier. If you guys want, could you explain the situation Tulane was in coming into that game?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of the case nowadays with Group of Five teams. A lot of times the best players on the team are in the transfer portal at the time of the game. So Darian Mensah, who was the American Conference Freshman of the Year, transferred to Duke. He had quit on the team actually, with a few games left in the season and was out the door. So our backup quarterback Kai Horton had also entered the transfer portal. So we were playing with our third string quarterback Ty Thompson, who was unable to throw a football, and he now is our third string tight end. So that really hampered the team on the offensive side of the ball. Also, a lot of our wide receivers didn't play in the conference or in the bowl game, excuse me. So the offensive side was really hampered. On the defensive side, a few of our players decided to sit out to prepare for the NFL draft as well. So those are like really good players, right, who are going to the NFL, decided to sit out of the game. So I honestly thought Tulane did pretty well to keep it close in the first half, considering how handicapped they were. If Tulane had played Florida a few weeks earlier in the season, I'm positive the score would have been different, especially if Mensah, who I think leads the ACC in passing yards this year, is on the field. So, Reed, did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, I think you hit everything. The one thing I would add is, late in the season, we had playoff aspirations, and we kind of blew it. And, we like to attribute a lot of that to Mensah being out the door. But, you lose to Memphis on Thanksgiving. You lose the American Conference Championship game. And you look back and you say 4 weeks ago, this team had a shot to make the playoffs, and now we're in the Gasparilla Bowl. I think that's part of it as well. But yeah, Jack, I agree. I mean, the defense played very well, especially in the first half, I thought. But when your offense is going 3 and out every single time, Tulane never had a chance, and DJ Lagway and that Florida offense eventually wore us down, like you mentioned, Daniel.
Yeah. And again, that's not to be like, hey, Florida won. It's for those that may not understand, that was not the Tulane team that you had watched all season. And you talked about players going in the portal, sitting out for the draft. So we talked about how last season ended. Coming into this year now, about how many new players did Jon Sumrall have on this Tulane team?
I think the official number was like 170. It was a lot. Like I mentioned, we were replacing Darian Mensah, replacing Mekhi Hughes, who was the conference player of the year on offense. He transferred to Oregon. Alex Bauman went to Miami, our tight end. On the defensive side of the ball, we lost Matthew Fobbs-White to Baylor, Adonis Freelo to Baylor, Parker Peterson to Wisconsin, cornerback Rayshon Pleasant to Auburn. Like, I could go on and on and on, right? Most of our players on last year's team are on power conference teams at the moment. And yeah, Jon Sumrall had to bring in an entirely new roster. And it's really, really hard for Tulane to bring in players of the quality that they're losing every year, right? Like, every year it seems like the roster maybe gets slightly worse a little bit more than next year. So I actually think that this year, Jon Sumrall had his strongest coaching job, with considering the amount of turnover we had, the amount of impact players we had to replace, and the sheer volume of players we lose in the portal. He did a fantastic job rallying the team and going 10-2. And I mean, this conference championship game is a playoff game, right? Winners in, losers out. Simple as that. So, it's pretty incredible that he's able to motivate these guys and develop the talent to replace the people we lost.
Yeah, I think one of Summerall's biggest strength is recruiting, specifically in the transfer portal, because even after Willie Fritz left a couple years ago, he brought a ton of our best players within the Houston. So Summerall really reloaded 2 years in a row, both years making the conference championship. There might be some to be desired in the high school recruiting, but he's done a great job this year. I don't know what that recruiting class, what the signing day is going to look like on Wednesday, but his ability to recruit the transfer portal is a reason why Tulane is playing for a championship game on Friday.
Reed, and to add on the high school recruiting part, like, he had a 4-star wide receiver, Trez Davis, 4-star offensive lineman, Tylen George, and another 4-star wide receiver, Braden Allen, all committed to Tulane. And all 3 would have been the highest rated high school recruit ever at Tulane. But, he's leaving. So they're not going to commit to Tulane. So that's, yeah, I mean, it's tough for Tulane to compete financially with some of the bigger schools, but he did do an excellent job with the resources he had.
And I've got to say, I really liked your bringing up that he reloaded twice. That's something I didn't know. I didn't know how much that when Fritz went to Houston, how many players got taken over. So that is interesting, because right now at Florida, we don't know how many players are going to stay with them or how many are going to hit the portal, because I think they have 12 days now that he's hired to make that decision. So it's good to know that at least going into the portal, he can do that. And you talked about there being so much turnover this year and it possibly being his best coaching job. So I do appreciate that insight for sure. I'm looking right now. You have 2 losses, one to Ole Miss at Hemingway, which they're in the playoffs. So, and Florida wanted their coach, and there's really no shame in that. I've got to ask only because I know a lot of Gators have brought it up, and they're like, well, we watched that UTSA game because it was a Thursday night. And again, not trying to be negative, but part of the reason I told you ahead of time I wanted to bring you on is to address some of the like questions that Gator fans have. And so for the fans that for some reason are circling that UTSA game and maybe not some of his other performances this year, like going to Memphis and beating the Tigers, what can you tell us about that game and why it may not be the indicator of who Summerall is as a coach?
I'll start on this one. I think that game is the biggest head scratcher of Jon Sumrall's short career as a head coach. He's been a head coach for 4 seasons. For every loss at Tulane, I've always had an excuse. I've always felt good about something. All I have to say is that the Alamo Dome is a really weird place to play. They are incredible at home. For any Florida fan, just look up their record at home, especially in conference. But realistically, I don't know if we prepared. Owen McCown had one of the best games of his career, who's Josh McCown's son, by the way. He went like 31 for 33 for 300 yards. Our defense, our secondary looked atrocious. That game will always stick in my mind, especially if Tulane wasn't in the running for the playoffs this year. I would never get over that game, but luckily I'm past that. But yeah, it's a weird game, Jack. Do you have a reason why?
Other than Alamo Dome voodoo, seriously, Florida fans, the UTSA Roadrunners, their point differential at home over the last 2 seasons is it's plus 180, and then their point differential on the road is minus 180. It's insane. It's kind of suspicious, honestly. But it sucked. Tulane sucked. Summerall got the game plan wrong. And I'd say that that was a huge letdown game. There's no two ways about it. But a lot of teams could have crumbled, right? A lot of teams could have let that define their entire season. Crap, we lost our chance at the playoff. We lost our chance at winning the conference, right? It's over. Well, guess what? They come around 10 days later against the favorite to make the college football playoff from the group of 5 against Memphis in the Liberty Bowl, probably the hardest place to play in the group of 5, right? And they go out and smoke Memphis. They're up, 34-17 or something like that at the half. That was the best game of the season for Tulane, just 10 days after the worst game, right? So Summerall's biggest strength is his ability to demand the attention of the room and lead. It's more intangible. He's not an X's and O's guy. He's not going to draw up the crazy play that's going to win you the game type guy, or really exotic blitzes that get to the quarterback. That's not him. He's going to be the coach that gets the very best out of his players over the course of a season. So it was really encouraging to see the team bounce back. And since that game, really, Tulane's played its best football. Even before that UTSA game, they struggled a little bit against Army. They struggled against ECU the 2 weeks prior. And we were wondering what's going on with this team. So, sometimes maybe you need a wake-up call, and maybe that's what that game was, and brought out the best in Jon Sumrall.
And, as Florida fans, I do like you bring up, it seems to be just one of those crazy losses that happen to coaches, because I can tell you, as Florida fans, I've seen Steve Spurrier lose to bad Mississippi State teams in Starkville. I've seen, Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow lose to a bad or not a great Ole Miss team at home and blow what could have been the first undefeated season team history. So I understand what it's like. Okay, when you see a team every weekend, you're just I have no clue what to think. But Florida fans should know the Alamo Dome's a special place. We're there in April celebrating a basketball national championship. So maybe we should give that a little credit too. Just trying to throw that out there, have a little fun with that. But I will say this, there's also something you brought up about he's not the coach to draw up a, game-winning play or, a crazy blitz. Would it be fair that you, as guys who have watched him coach, to say he's more of a CEO type coach where he lets his assistants do a lot of that?
Yeah, absolutely. one of his biggest strengths is recognizing what his strengths are, right, and what they aren't. And he's definitely willing to let his staff, lead in certain ways and take on certain responsibilities. And I think he said it in the opening press conference for Florida. He also said it in his opening press conference for Tulane. He said, winners win. I'm a winner and I'm going to win. Right. Yeah. He pulled that one out again, but it's true, right? He surrounds himself with people who have that desire, that, absolute hate to lose mentality, right? He's going to win at all costs, no matter what. The other thing he said at the Tulane press conference is, if you're juiceless, you're useless. And he likes people with juice. So, so that's the type of person he's going to hire, someone with juice.
Go ahead, Reed. He's the best leader of a head coach I've seen in a long time, especially for his age. Like, he is so exciting. If you have any doubts in your mind as a player, you're not going to play for him. You see that in the people that he recruits. You see that in the way that he gets people to rally. He's going to start with the leadership at his level and then get the players that will carry that on so he doesn't have to micromanage it. I will say, we touched on like the drawing up plays, X's and O's. We have seen that struggle, especially on offense the past few years in the red zone. Obviously it's a very easy thing to nitpick, but he's turned it around in the last few games. But I will add that has been maybe an issue, Jack. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is, like, we struggle at some things. We're not perfect at some things, but we're 10-2 and we're in the spot to make the playoff, right? Like he's a winner and he wins. That's what he does. Everywhere he's been, he wins. I think Florida posted the stat. It's like he's the only coach to make 4 straight conference championship games across 2 different schools in his first 4 years. Some obscure stat like that. It's true. Like, it is obscure, but it's true. It's pretty incredible that he took Troy, who was a perennial 5-win team in the 3 years prior to him being coach, took them straight to the conference championship, right? 2 times in a row. Then he comes over to Tulane, who got absolutely raided by the NFL draft and by the transfer portal, rebuilds them, signs the highest rated recruits in history from the transfer portal and from high school in his first year, does it again the next year, right? And has the team back fighting for a conference championship. I think it's extremely impressive. And he also, the way he interacts with fans and media is really unique as well. I don't think I've been around a coach that's so approachable almost, right? Like he's the type of guy where he walks into a room and all of a sudden everyone's paying attention to him, but he will also like look you directly in the eye and say like, "Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Thank you for being here." And you can tell he means it, which is like, it's just a unique thing. I don't know. It's a rare trait in people. So recruits know that, other coaches know that, right? Like the existing Florida players will know it when they talk to him. He's gonna get the best people in the building, and he's gonna do his best to win.
And speaking of getting the best people in the building, we talked about before we came on air that for a lot of Florida fans, the biggest question mark is how he's going to do offense at Florida. And I know we've heard, the critique of the goal or red zone offense hasn't been so great recently. But he said in his opening press conference, he talked about having to think of Florida offense and having to defend every blade of grass and using the skill position players. Should Florida fans take that with a grain of salt, or is this a guy, because we don't know him, that if he says this is what I want to do, he's going to do it? Like, he's not just saying stuff to make the fans happy.
He means it when he says it. Like, he is definitely the most honest head coach I've seen in forever. Like, he even told Tulane players on Zoom, commits to sign with Tulane. which is a breath of fresh air. Obviously, it's a different level of football between Florida and Tulane, but when Jon Sumrall says something, I genuinely trust him compared to other coaches across college football. He's not going to be the one necessarily calling plays or drawing things up, but he's going to put the person who he thinks is best for the job at offensive coordinator, and he has a lot of connections. Like he's very well connected. We were talking to Commissioner Tim Pernetti last night, and he had nothing but praise for Jon Sumrall and what a great job he's done for the conference, what a great career he has ahead of him. So I guess my point is, if he says something, he definitely means it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he means it. I also think that if it's not working, whatever he's trying to do, he'll be quick to adapt, which is really important, right? He's not going to be the type of player that's or the type of coach that's so dogmatic in their scheme, it has to work, and they're going to, fall on their sword because of it. If he realizes that you got to hand the ball to Jaden Baugh 25 times to win, maybe that's what he's going to do, right? But not because he's lying about having an explosive offense,
right,
but just because once he figures out how to win, that's what he's going to do.
Okay, and perfect. And I'll tell you, just honestly, one of my keys for what I was looking for in a head coach ahead of time is a coach who's dedicated to a high-powered passing attack. Not that you avoid the run at all, because we've had Steve Spurrier. If you think of Steve Spurrier, most people think of high-power passing. But some of the Gators' all-time leading rushers, including the number one all-time leading rusher, were Steve Spurrier guys, because we had a double-faceted offense, something Florida's not had for 15 years, which I think, again, has led to, some fans look at Tulane, and I'll ask you about this year's offense in general, which I know you've talked about Mensa being gone, but they look at Tulane and being, okay, like in the 40s in offense, and they see this is kind of what Billy Napier looked like before he came to Florida. Could you, I know you've said a lot to dispel that, but just specifically, what would you say to people with those thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so first of all, our starting quarterback, Jake Retzlaff, got on campus on the third week of July. So, just over a month before the season kicked off, we got our starting quarterback. And our passing attack definitely started slow. It looked like our quarterback was getting to know his receivers. That's what it looked like, because that's what was happening. But I'll tell you what, down the stretch of the season, starting with that Memphis game, the passing attack has really come alive. Our EPA per play has gone up by almost a full point, which is pretty incredible. And Retzlaff's looked really good. Reed and I were pretty vocal about questioning the talent of our receivers earlier in the season. And the receivers have really played a lot better down the stretch here. So, and last year, Darian Mensah was a fantastic quarterback who threw the ball a ton. And Mario Williams was a 1,000-yard receiver. Bryce Bohannon was a really productive option. Shaz Preston was a productive option. So, I don't think, if you're wanting an air raid, like pass the ball 50 times a game coach, and that's your number one and only criteria, you might not like Jon Sumrall. But if you want to win SEC championships and national championships, you'll probably like him. That's how I would phrase it.
And you know what? That's a good quote right there. I definitely think that's good, because there are different ways to win, but unfortunately, the way Florida's tried winning for 15 years, for the most part, outside of really one season, is just let's make the pass so secondary that the run game ends up suffering, unless you're Florida State this past weekend and even 10 guys in the box doesn't do anything. So you have a number two all-time rushing game for running back, which was awesome for Jaden Baugh. Sorry, I had to take the shot at FSU. Just had to. But I will say, speaking of Mensa, you guys took on Duke this year, who's in the ACC title game. How'd that game end up?
It went very well. I think that score is deceiving. I feel like Tulane dominated them for most of the game. We kind of let Duke come back in the game in the fourth quarter, but that was the most raucous I've ever seen Yeoman Stadium. Tulane, we can sell out, we can be excited, but that game felt very personal, so that was a lot of fun. And, what we were talking about, Summerall's not committed to the pass or the run. He will adapt his game plan no matter who we play. You might get 50 passes, you might get 50 rushes. But in a game like Duke, in a game like Northwestern, in a game like Memphis, I have to credit the game plan for that, where we put our players in positions to succeed. Versus UTSA, we didn't really do that. But he can put his players in positions to succeed. And that Duke game was awesome. And I hope they win the ACC championship, even though we don't like Darian Mensah very much.
Yeah, you can kind of tell with Summerall teams, like on the first offensive and defensive drive of the game, like sometimes they just come out and they are like, holy cow, like this is one of the best teams in the entire country. Like, that's coming from a Tulane fan. I really mean that. Like sometimes the way that Summerall gets this team to play is insane. They're fast, they're physical, they're quick in tight spaces. They're doing every little thing at an extremely high level. Now, my gripe with Tulane this year, and I don't think this is a knock on Summerall. I think it has more to do with the players in the roster, but is that we haven't looked like that for 4 quarters this year, right? It's only been for stretches. But 3.5 quarters of that Duke game, 3 quarters of that Memphis game, Tulane just absolutely took those good teams to the shed and dominated them, whooped their ass. So that's what Summerall wants, and that's what you'll get. Hopefully more often than not.
Definitely. And I guess as we start to wrap this up, I guess I'll ask each of you, what is one of your favorite Summerall memories at Tulane?
Oh, that's a good question. I have one in mind right away, but Jack, I don't know if you have something else.
You go first. I'm still thinking.
The one that sticks out the most, well, I guess I'll do 2. Hopefully I don't steal either one from Jack, but the first one that means the most to me is saying that he's going to win championships. He's going to go to the playoffs. He's going to win the playoffs, which it's crazy. He's been here for only 2 years. And while it might be unlikely, he still has a chance to deliver on all 3 of those promises. I mean, the way he gets the juices flowing, the way he gets people excited, the way he rallies the city of New Orleans around Tulane was incredible. And then his post-game interviews on the field, you're really going to love that. I really, really liked when he was – I love after we win and he complains. He's like, we're an average team, we're a garbage team, and then leaves by saying RMFW, which roll MF wave. So, yeah, he gets you very excited as a fan for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a specific moment, but just the general the general honesty that you'll get from him. Like, you'll know exactly what he's thinking at all times because he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you in a very straightforward, sometimes amusing way. Like after, what was it, the ECU game, Reed, or maybe it's the Army game this year. Someone asked him how he thought the team played, and he goes, "We suck. We fucking suck. But you know what? We won, and we'll get better." So it's like you don't usually get that from a coach, especially on live TV. But yeah.
I'm hoping the best moment's yet to come, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that was after a win. Oh, another thing is he does the Nick Saban thing where, like, after a win, he'll be like, we're terrible. We have so much to fix. Then after a loss, he's like, we didn't actually play as bad. Like, give these guys credit. They did these things well. Like, he very much plays the other side of whatever the narrative is that week to sort of either build up his guys when they need it or put them down, keep them humble after a big win.
Awesome. And one last thing I meant to ask earlier. How does he feel about rivalry games from what you've seen at Tulane?
That's an interesting question. I mean, Reed and I have talked about this earlier. Like, Tulane doesn't really have a rival. in the moment, at least that we play often. So like that Duke game, for example, felt like a rivalry game just because of Darian Mensah coming back to campus. And yeah, I mean, he got that team fired up. I don't think the team needed any extra juice because of how amped up the whole crowd was. But yeah, what do you think, Reed?
Yeah, my only worry with Summerall's feeling on rivalry games is that he's going to get players too juiced up. Like, I can't imagine Jon Sumrall as head coach of Florida, going against Tennessee, going against Florida State, going against whoever, going against Georgia. Like, Sumrall might give too much juice. He's going to be way too excited about it. I mean, if you're worried about juice in rivalry games, Summerall's the type of guy to feed off of that for sure.
Oh, and that's awesome to hear because we just got rid of a coach who openly talked in a press conference once about calling the rival coach and congratulating them on beating us, which is not what any fan wants to hear their head coach saying of any team, especially your biggest rival. So that hearing that
I have another great Summerall moment. Now that you
over,
yeah, talk about other head coaches after. So his first year last year at Tulane, we beat UAB and Trent Dilfer, who was the head coach at the time, 72-10. I think the final score was. So there's your high-powered offense. But anyway, Dilfer's walking across the field, and Summerall goes to meet him at midfield. And I don't know what they were talking about, but Trent Dilfer grabs Summerall by the cheek and neck and brings him closer like he's about to kiss him or something. And Summerall pushes him away. It was the weirdest thing. I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, that was a pretty funny moment. And we got the podcast have poked fun at Trent Dilfer quite a bit after that. So
Summerall, he'll always show respect to opposing coaches and opposing teams, but I'll tell you what, if you make it personal with him, he will fire right back. He's all like Glenn Kiffin in that way. There was a whole private plane saga. So yeah, he won't make it personal, but he will continue on that type of train if you need it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Once again, thank you guys for coming on. If anyone wants to check out your stuff, your coverage, maybe even especially the coverage of the game coming up before and after, where can they find you?
So we're on Twitter. You can follow us at @UptownUpdate. You can follow the Uptown Update, any podcast platform. We had Tim Pernetti, the commissioner, on yesterday, but we really appreciate you having us on. And we hope the best for Jon Sumrall in Florida in the future.
And good luck to you guys this Friday. I think it would be awesome if you beat North Texas, made the playoffs. I mean, there are many Florida fans that we want them here now. But how much better would that scream to people in the transfer portal about, hey, come to Florida. This dude just made the playoffs. And you talked about him saying he's going to win in the playoffs. If he gets that first round win, he can say, I went with Tulane and won there. Imagine what we could do, at Florida. And that's not meant to be a knock on you, but as you're talking about resources earlier, I'm like, let me build on that. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much. Hopefully, for any Gators listening, everyone that listened, they've got stuff to be excited about for Jon Sumrall. And that's really why I want to pull you guys. Thank you again. And with that said, for our listeners, thank you for listening. And as always, go Gators.